Hey everybody, what's up? This is Jordan from PictureMonk.com, and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 17 of the podcast, and I just want to say that a couple of my last podcasts have been listened to a lot, and it really makes me happy that people are actually listening to my podcast, and I'm definitely getting feedback from it. So I know I kind of say this every podcast, but thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate that. And I don't know why, but it's kind of weird to see where people can listen to. And I've noticed that I have a fairly big following in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So if you're listening from Oklahoma City, thanks for listening. I very, very much appreciate that. So I'm recording this on Saturday, and this is daylight savings time for the U.S. I don't know if any other place in the world celebrates that. It's kind of weird. But daylight savings time, just to do a little housekeeping before we get started with the episode. Since it is daylight savings time, remember to set the clock on your camera ahead. So I did that. I put out actually a tweet when daylight savings time was last time, where we rolled back. So make sure you, when you hear this, if you haven't already, move your clock ahead on your camera, and just remember to do that since it's that time of the year. All right, so I don't have many news topics that I want to talk about. I couldn't really find anything that was really that intriguing. But one thing I wanted to kind of talk about was, I like to do a lot of different types of photography. I mainly like to do landscape photography. That's my favorite subject to shoot. But I don't want to be known as the kind of photographer that just shoots landscapes, or that just does portraits and that sort of thing. I actually want to shoot tons of stuff. I want to be able to shoot whatever I can. And one of the things, along with real estate photography, that I'm kind of getting into is, I think my next big project is going to be food photography. And this is mainly inspired by looking at stuff on like Pinterest or any of those other recipe sites and stuff. They have really, really good food photography, and I kind of want to get into that. And I've been putting together a mini list of tips that I from reading around on other people's tips on photography for food photography, and I put together a 7-tip list of some tips that I think are really going to help out if you want to do this. And it doesn't necessarily have to just pertain to food photography, but obviously some of the stuff is kind of geared more towards that. So I'm going to go ahead and run through a quick 7-tip list for food photography. So the first tip is kind of basically just use light. I call it find the light. And basically what that means is you can get really good food photography with natural light, obviously. But if you really want to experiment with flash, get a nice radio trigger for your flash. I'm actually gonna post a link to the one that I use. It's really, really expensive. You might think you have to go get like the Pocket Wizards, which are really really expensive actually for what they are. But you can really get away with a lot of different kind of equipment for that. So I use just an off-brand radio trigger from Amazon that I got. So I'll put a link to that, and you guys can look into that and see if you guys want to get that. But basically all it does is just take the flash off of your camera. And so you can get that a lot of different ways. You can do it with that radio trigger, or you can get a cable that will go from your hot shoe to the flash, and you can do it that way. But basically just use the light. And if you don't want to experiment with flash, that's okay. I'm really not a big flash person, and I'm going to be straight up with you guys. It's not because I'm a purist and I feel like natural light is the best way to go. I just don't understand flash as much as I probably should. So, and that will probably be sort of the route that I go when I try to take some food photography, is playing with the flash. Obviously I know what to do, because I've had to do studio photography before. And, you definitely have to use flash for that. So I do understand it, but, it's almost, again, I'm going to be right straight with you guys. It's almost like a lazy thing. I don't want to, I don't want to get the flash out and, you fire it on and maybe the batteries are dead and you got to find more batteries and do all this stuff. It's kind of like a lazy thing. I just want to go get the shot. And so I need to get away from that, not just in food photography, but in, everything. So, So it's basically just find the light. You can get get next to a really big window. I know in our kitchen we have a big window that's in our kitchen. So when I plan to do food photography, I plan to put it on the table that's in front of that window and kind of use that, and then start experimenting with flash. So make sure you use the light. Make sure you have a good strong light source. The more the better, and you can always back it down in your settings on your camera. So the more light the better, and you can even use if it is too much light, if you feel like you're getting too many hot spots, you can actually diffuse the light with a bit of parchment paper. And parchment paper is usually what's found in a lot of kitchens. So just use parchment paper to put it in front of or in between the window or the light source and your food, and you got a free diffuser basically. All right, the next tip is sort of like a not too low, not too high sort of situation. I've been studying a lot of food photography shots, and I've noticed that a lot of them are, if you get between a certain degree and angle from your photo, it kind of looks awkward. And so you kind of got to keep it around the 30 to 45 degree mark from your food. And, you want to kind of keep it there. And, if you want to experiment with other things, you can try like a level shot, or a top view shot. That's one of the popular ones. And you want to kind of keep it between there. So if you get out of that 30 to 45 degree angle of the food, then you kind of want to just go level or go high. So that's sort of a quick tip for that, just because it's it can look a little awkward. It can look like it's basically a snapshot, and you don't want that. You want it to look like it was planned, and you have some thought that actually went into it. All right, this one has to do with a little bit of maintenance, and that is make sure you have a clean plate when you're working. If you're a big fan of cooking shows, which me and my wife, we watch the Master Chef's show here in the U.S., and it's basically just they cook food and then they present it and they get judged on how well it tastes and looks and all that kind of stuff. We're big nerds into that. So, you always see them cleaning their plate, wiping it down, make sure it's clean. And so that's just, it's kind of like a no-brainer tip, but you kind of want to make sure that you have a good clean plate when you're taking your photos, not only for the fact that it'll make your photos look better, but, any little bit of, extra food or extra, spices or anything left over will definitely show up. And you want to try to get that right in camera as much as possible and not have to, go into Photoshop and clone out pepper flakes or something like that, something stupid like that. So, just make sure you have a clean plate, and make sure you wipe it down. Also, make sure you pay attention to what is on your plate, and make sure that you have the right angle of food and that sort of thing. All right, the next little quick tip is to make sure you have the freshest food. This is going to be an issue with me because I do plan on cooking the food before I take the photos. So you want to make sure you have everything ready to go before you even start cooking. And so a quick tip for that would be to basically take an empty plate and set it down on the counter where you're going to take the photos, and then set up everything around that empty plate. And I'm actually kind of proud of that tip because I just made that up off my head right now. But anyway, so you basically just take the clean plate and you set up the photos or the equipment to be surrounded by that plate. And make sure you get your light good. You have all your utensils there if you want to include props and that sort of thing. And then once you have the food all cooked and everything, right from the oven or right from the stove or whatever, just pop it right on to that plate, or just remove the plate in general and replace it, and you have your food ready to go. This will especially help with hot food. If you want to try to capture just a little bit of steam, you can definitely have that ready to go. And most likely you're going to have to add, if it is a hot kind of food, you're going to have to add some steam in Photoshop. But you want to try to get as much as possible. All right, tip number 5 is to, like I was saying in the last tip, was to use some props. So, for example, if you're taking pictures of soup or something like that, something along those lines, you can take a picture of the soup bowl and have all the stuff in there, and it'll look fine. But to dress it up a bit, you can include some props. So maybe include some raw ingredients of what it took to make the soup. So let's say you're making a chicken noodle soup or something like that, and you have celery in the soup. have a regular celery block or celery stalk right next to the bowl, and just have it, as a dressing for your photo. Same thing with utensils, like I was saying. Have some, a nice fork there, a nice spoon or something like that to dress up your photo, and maybe have a napkin or something like that. So don't just take a picture of the food. Don't concentrate on just the food itself. Make sure you have your surroundings ready to go when you are getting ready to take some food photography. All right, the next tip is to, kind of include yourself in the photo. And what I mean by that is to, you can actually add your arm or your hand or something like that in the photo. So kind of a little example would be to, let's say you're taking a photo of a piece of cake or cheesecake or cupcakes, anything like that. Kind of get the photo that you want to get, just like standalone photo. So, get all your shots of what you want to experiment with that. This is, for an example, that you only have one piece. So, get all the photos that you need of the whole food. But then take your fork and, take a picture of you, slicing into the cake or something like that. Don't be afraid to put your hand in there to add a little bit more visual interest in that, because, you want to make sure that you give it a little more personality than just a regular regular cake photography or food photography, that kind of thing. Give it a little more interest. And the reason I was saying about the one piece, get all your shots. If you only have one piece, get all your shots, because once you cut into it, you're done. But if you have multiple pieces, I know a lot of I was researching a couple food photographers out there, and they and this is kind of where I got the cake reference from. Is one guy, I wish I could remember his name. I should have wrote that down, but he had not only a whole round cake with him, he had three entire cakes that were identical, and he ran through all of those to get I think about 7 shots. And obviously it's a high-end sort of thing. He that's what he does for a living. But 3 whole cakes, and just to get 7 photos to go in a magazine. So it's kind of crazy to think about that. But if you're just doing this as kind of like a side and just a little hobby project, make sure you have all the shots that you need. Then you can experiment with putting yourself in the photo. Okay, and I kind of wanted to come up with for the last little tip. I kind of wanted to come up with a little saying for this, and I kind of came up with "macro is the man," and that basically just means don't, if you're trying to take, let's go back to the cake reference. Why not? Go back to the cake reference, and if you want to take a picture of a piece of dessert like that, get the overall shot. Go back and get your props in the shot. The fork, the napkin, that sort of thing. But also make sure you get really, really close to get some detail shots. So go back to the cake thing. Maybe it's got a little bit of shaved white chocolate on it or something. I don't know, just something like that. Some dressing on it. Dripped raspberry or raspberry sauce, something like that. I'm just making all this off my head, so just bear with me on this. Get the detail shots of that. So you have your overall shots, and then you have your detail shots, which really kind of sell that, and get the viewer of the photo, get the person looking at it a little bit more into the photo. So that's something to also be cognizant about, is to just kind of make sure you not only pay attention to the overall photo, but make sure you get in there tight and get the details of that sort of thing. All right, so I know that was a kind of a quick run through of that stuff, and I the reason I did that is because, and by no means am I saying again that I'm any sort of professional in this, but I've just seen some things that definitely make sense, common sense stuff, and I kind of wanted to share those with you. And again, some of this stuff can obviously be applied to all other styles of photography. For example, the macro stuff. Even me as a person that likes to concentrate on landscape stuff. Getting close-up detail stuff is really beneficial. That can be from anything, like, let's say you're taking a picture of a beach and maybe you see some ripples in the sand, sort of thing. Don't be afraid to just snap a couple of those too, because it's detail shots that sell a story. and that's kind of what you want to do. And let me also throw in, I guess this is 7 tips plus 8, or wow, that was weird. I guess this is 7 tips plus 1 is, don't just get the final shot. If you're making the food, get step-by-step stuff of that. So that's what I plan on doing as well, is not only am I going to get the final product and concentrate on that for 80% of the effort that I'm putting towards it, but I'm also going to concentrate on kind of getting my process of doing that. So and I kind of wanted to start a kind of a food blog in a way, because me and my wife, we cook a lot, so I thought it would be kind of cool to do that, and that would also be another way to push photography out there. But that's many years down the road for even if I try to do that stuff. So you never know what could happen. But if you have someone who likes to bake or likes to cook, offer to take shots of their food as something that is fun for you, but also beneficial for them, and that will help you both out actually. All right, so let's also do a little quick roundup of what was happening this week on PictureMonk.com. Now that we rounded out those food photography tips, and let's see, this past Friday's freebie was a DVD, or actually a film. It's on Netflix, so if you have a Netflix subscription, you can check this out for free. It's a film called Smash His Camera. It's a really good documentary about Ron Galella. I've heard of him before watching this, but I found it on Netflix. I totally forgot about it, so I watched it, and it was a really good documentary. Basically just showed, all the famous photos that he's taken of celebrities and what he's had to do. I'm not a big fan of paparazzi, but it still was kind of fun to see that. So if you have Netflix, just head on over there and you can get a free watch of that. It's a really good documentary, like I said. Tons of photos, and the stories behind them are crazy. So just check that out if you have Netflix. Also, I think it was Wednesday, I believe. Also, I released a video showing you how to do that 32-bit HDR that I talked about in episode 16 of the podcast. It's a really quick video to watch, really easy to follow through with the steps. And if you're really big into HDR, give that a shot. You'll probably see a definite difference in the amount of detail you can get in your HDR photos, without it looking super HDR. Because again, most photographers actually go into Photomatics. That's a big popular HDR program. So if you want to try it just using Photoshop, I have Photoshop CC, but this method also works in, I believe, back to Photoshop CS5. So go back to there. It's the whatever Photoshop has the HDR merged to HDR Pro. So that's most of the recent versions of Photoshop. So if you want to go check that out, that's a good way to kind of get into a different side of the HDR and check that out if you're really big into that. All right, and the last thing I want to kind of talk about real quick is I really need your guys' help. I want to get my podcast, the podcast you're listening to, I want to get it higher in the rankings, not just to benefit me, but I want to help out any beginning photographers out there that have struggles, because I definitely struggled when I was trying to learn all this crazy weird stuff. So what I want to do is I want to do a kind of a giveaway. So how I think I want to do this is to if you go to the podcast on iTunes and rate the podcast, even if it's a 1-star saying that the podcast sucks, that's fine. Just be honest. If you go to the podcast and rate it, I'm going to pick at random a person out of that group of ratings. I only have 3 ratings right now, so I obviously need to have more to do this. But I'm going to give away my 1 copy of my PictureMonk presets that went on sale a couple weeks ago. I'm going to try to do this every week as long as I have enough reviews. So yeah, I'm just being straight honest with you guys. If you guys want to do that, if you guys want to help me out with that, I really appreciate it, and I want to give something back to you guys. So if you rate it, tell your friends about the podcast, have them rate it as well. Like I said, even if it sucks, that's fine. And even if you say it sucks, I'm still going to give you a chance to win the presets. It's just a free preset pack for you guys for saying thank you. So I really would appreciate it if you would go rate and help me out. I really would help it would really help the podcast out, and that's what I want to do. I want to help the podcast out so I can help other people, and eventually I kind of want to get into a teaching mode of how to do photography, because it is kind of crazy when you first start out, because there's a lot of different things that you have to learn and remember, and all kinds of equipment to buy, what not to buy, that sort of thing. What you need, what you don't necessarily need, but other people say you need, that sort of thing. So I would really appreciate it. Again, head over to the podcast. You can get there quickly just by going to PictureMonk.com/podcast. That'll take you there. And again, rate it. I would really much appreciate it. And then you might be one who gets the free preset pack. It's no sweat off your back. All you got to do is write one little sentence or give me a star or something. But again, I appreciate you guys listening. Like I said, Oklahoma City, thank you very much. There's tons of people listening there. I don't know what I did to get over there. But again, appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Remember to set your clocks on your camera forward for daylight savings time. And again, head over to PictureMonk.com for more stuff coming out this week. Another Friday freebie is coming out this week. And that's about it. I really much appreciate it. This is Jordan from PictureMonk.com, and I will catch you guys later.